Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. If you do have a mobile phone, maybe you can put the mobile phone asleep. Don't put yourself asleep, just the mobile, okay? Otherwise it might wake you up when you're sleeping. So we're reading this verse today. It's on the board, number 50. Please repeat. Panchabihi Kurute Svartan Pancha Veda Ata Panchabihi Ekaha Tu Sodashena Trin Svayam Saptadasaha Ashnute Panchavi Kurate Svartam Panchavedata Panchabihi Ekastu Sodashena Trin Svayang Sapta Dashosnute Panchavi Kurate Svartam Panchavedata Panchabihi Ekastu Sadashena Trin Svayang Sapta Dashosnute Panchavi Kurate Svartan Panchavedata Panchabihi Ekastu Sadashena Trin Svayang Sapta Dashosnute Panchavi Kurate Svartan Panchavedata Panchabihi Ekastu Sadashena Trin Svayang Sapta Dashosnute Svartan Panchavedata Panchabihi Ekastu Sadashena Trin Svayang Sapta Dashosnute Panchavi Kurute Svartan Panchavedata Panchabihi Ekastu Sadashena Trin Svayam Sapta Dashosnute Panchavi Kurute Svartan Panchavedata Panchabihi Ekastu Sadashena Trin Svayam Sapta Dashosnute Panchabihi, with the 5 working senses. Most of you are probably quite familiar what the 5 working senses are. If you're not, try to pick this up, try to understand what they are. Voice, arms, legs, anus, and genitals. We don't usually think of the anus and genitals as senses, huh? But they're very busy. They have action to perform. So they're the working senses. And you do get quite a lot of feeling from those organs, isn't it? You do get feeling from your legs and arms and anus and genitals, and certainly from the voice. Kurute performs for artan, his desired interests. Pancha, the 5 objects of the senses. And again, something to think about, something to learn if we don't know it. Sound, because that's the object of the senses of the ear. Form, and what's that the object of? Eyes. Touch, skin, sensation from the skin. Aroma, that's the easy one, isn't it? Nose. And taste. Tongue, very easy. Such easy subject matter in one sense. Veda, nose. Hata, thus. Panchabhihi, by the 5 senses of perception. How do we perceive this world? We discussed this a little bit yesterday, actually, perception. How do we perceive the world? Through the senses. And of course, ultimately, you could say it's not one of the 5, but it's included in the Bhagavad Gita and included in the mind. These senses. The mind is like the, say, where they all come in. It's like the collecting point. They all go out and they bring everything back to the mind. And so we have these 5 working senses, which are, these 5 perceptive senses, which are, what are they? The eyes perceive, and the ears, the most significant one of all. The ears, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was saying today, that the other senses are sometimes envious of the ears. It's hard to imagine, envious of the ears. In other words, we don't take seriously what the ears are saying, or hearing, let's say, not saying, but hearing and transporting to the mind. The other senses, no, form, no, taste, I'm the boss, no. The hearing is the most important sense. Hearing, we see, Prabhupada said, we see through our ears. That sounds a little bit odd from relative perception. But it's a fact. We actually see, as we heard yesterday, the thrust of yesterday was Shastra Chakshus. We hear from the Shastra. We live our life based on Shastra. We don't live it based only on sense perception. So the main way that we receive Shastric instruction is through the ears. You can also use your eyes. You can use it every way, but the ear is the main one. Traditionally, the ear was the primary and practically only one. Now we have books. When I joined this movement, we didn't have books. They were there, but we didn't have them. Nobody had their own book. There was no library. There was one copy of the Bhagavatam, maybe more than one of the Gita, but not many more. One copy of Nectar of Devotion. You had to hear. It was difficult to read sometimes. The book wasn't available. So it became available in due course of time. It was there, but we just didn't have any left. I don't know what they did with them. Maybe they distributed them. I brought a Bhagavad Gita with me when I joined the temple on a Krishna book. And when I woke up in the morning, they were no longer in my locker. I never found out where they went, but they disappeared. I said nothing of it. We can hear every day Bhagavad Gita class attentively, and hear Bhagavatam class every day attentively. We have Nectar Devotion class every day also, every day Ishopanishad class, every day of the week, except for Sunday, where we had the Sunday feast program, but you heard every day from the Shastra. And in this way, the ears, we were imbibing or taking on whatever the instruction was there. And you had to, because that was the only, I'll read it later. I don't need to go to class. I can read it in my room. I can, whatever. We never had this system where you could sit 100 miles away and listen to the class. If you weren't there, you weren't there. That was it. And so, obviously, if you wanted to hear, you had to go to class. And pretty much 100% attendance for all classes, unless you were cooking or worshipping the deity or something. And, practicing remembering what you hear, because it's the only chance at that point. Later on we got books, and I don't know if we became lazy or what, but, it was very nice, that's all I can say. So the 5 perception senses, the ear is the most important one, and of course we have the smelling, we get knowledge, or let's say we perceive knowledge, not say we perceive around us the objects or the environment around us through our nose, through our hearing faculty, through our seeing capacity, through our tasting capacity and our feeling capacity. Ekaha, the one. 2, but. Sodashena, by these 15 items and the mind. Treen, the 3 categories of experience. This may not be so easy to grasp, but it's called happiness, distress, and a mixture of both. Swayam, he, the living entity himself. Saptadashaha, the 17th item. Ashnute, enjoys. Translation, let's see if there's a purport or not. There is. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Above the 5 senses of perception, the 5 working senses and the 5 objects of the senses is the mind. The mind is like the master, is like the main, the emperor of the senses or something, which is the 16th element. Above the mind is the 17th element, the soul, the living being himself, who, in cooperation with the other 16, enjoys the material world alone. In other words, in each and every body, which is comprised of these various senses, the living entity is individually alone. You're enjoying yourself, even if you're with somebody else. It's actually the individual who's, you're alone. You're enjoying the whatever, or suffering from whatever messages are coming or whatever experiences one is having in contact with the world around us and within us. The living being enjoys 3 kinds of situations: happiness, happy, distressful, and mixed. This is, of course, in Sankhya philosophy, the analysis of the various elements of creation. Try to understand the origin, to try to understand the purpose behind it all, and to separate ourselves from the entanglement within the material elements. Not everyone is mentioned here, but most of them are mentioned here in this verse. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Everyone engages in work with his hands, legs, and other senses just to achieve a certain goal according to his concocted ideas. Everyone in this world is concocting, I'll be happy if I do this. If I just work harder, I'll be happier, isn't it? Or if I study more. Or if I go somewhere else. Or if I change my partner. Or if I change my sex. Yes, people even think like that, some of them. There's no end of concocted ideas of thinking how I'll be happy. Material world. One tries to enjoy the 5 sense objects, namely form, sound, taste, aroma, and touch, not knowing the actual goal of life. And what is the goal of life? The ABC. We've got to learn our ABCs. I don't know much more than ABC. I don't even know that. But at least we can repeat it. What is our goal of life? Krishna Prema. Okay, wonderful. And what is Krishna? Is Krishna Prema something like what we've just read just now that we enjoy alone? Sometimes we think that Krishna Prema is something which then I will enjoy myself, Just like I enjoy an ice cream. And who was talking about ice creams? Oh, Janananda was talking about ice creams yesterday. And he was half glad he was not staying in Mayapur, because now in the room which he was probably would have been staying in is full of ice creams, because one of the devotees is selling ice creams in Mayapur. So he's glad he's not there, otherwise he would have become completely overwhelmed with ice cream. So it's not like that. It's not like I am going to enjoy Krishna Prema. What is it? There's a little bit more to it, isn't there? Than, give me Krishna Prema, I want Krishna Prema. That's good. Logim, you could say. But what does that mean in practical terms?
Satisfying Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, exactly. Bang, you hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head, as we say in English. That's what Prabhupada says here. The goal of life, which is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. This is the Vaishnava. Now, materialist selflessness means mundane welfare work or something. For the impersonalist, it means, you give up all kind of perception, sense perception, and you just kind of enter into a nothingness almost, of Brahma, oneness. But there's nothing to perceive, there's no means of perception, although one still exists and it's still there, but it's one kind of like, it's not active. But for a devotee, this is a little different. It's a little different. It's not the same thing. For a devotee, the whole point is not to satisfy one's own concocted ideas, whichever mode of nature they're in, and it's not to, whatever reason, merge into the Brahman and think, now I become it, everything. There's nothing else. I am God, or whatever you want to call it. That's not. The devotee is objective. It's not even one sense, I want to be happy. It's the Anandamaya Bisad is the nature of the living entity. We're all naturally looking for happiness, and then whether it's this one or that one, different types of happiness are there. But and some of you, some of the ladies, maybe some of the men, you've had children, you've been family members, or are still family members, and the mother's pleasure is not completely absolutely like this, but to a large degree is the pleasure of the children, isn't it? When the mother sees her children happy and healthy and well situated, the mothers generally are very happy, right? Father also, but especially the mother. Prabhupada also was very happy to see his disciples, followers, very happy, but not just happy because they're eating ice creams all day long, but because they're totally engaged in devotional service, following the principles, chanting the holy name, preaching Krishna consciousness. He becomes happy to see this. The devotee's suffering is, devotees also may suffer. What is their suffering? What is the suffering of a devotee? I don't mean, oh, I've got a toothache, this devotee is giving me a hard time. What is the suffering of a devotee, a real devotee?
Not getting the service.
Huh?
Not getting the Vaishnava Seva.
Not giving?
Vaishnava Seva.
Vaishnava Seva? Well, yeah, the Ramananda Roy is given a different perspective of suffering. What did he say?
Separation.
Separation from when you don't have the association of devotees. But of an individual devotee, there's another one. It's called Paradukkha Dukhi. What does that mean?
See others suffer.
Yeah, when you see others suffering. It's another angle. I mean, to be devoid of devotees association. I had an experience one time in Africa. Here comes our Traktasura coming again. Every day he comes. and he's becoming Krishnized. I remember I had an experience in 1979. I was trying to serve in Africa during that period of time, and there was some real problem in the temple. I mean, for me anyway, it was a real problem. I thought I was going to get out of here. So I went off with one young Bhakta from Uganda. We went off to Uganda to preach, and that was the at least that was the idea, maybe a concoction on my part. And after a while, I was alone. He disappeared, and I won't get into the story, but I was completely alone in a helpless condition, totally helpless. I had nothing I could do about it, absolutely nothing. And then I started to really feel the pain, even if the association of devotees, or one of our godbrothers is, we have a saying in England, England with all thy faults I love thee. Who said that? One famous English personality said that. England with all thy faults I love thee. So he said, ISKCON with all thy faults I love thee. Devotees with all your faults I love you. Because outside, even though there are faults outside of, who was saying that yesterday, that Gurnataraj was saying, I asked him how he was, and he said something like, problem, because it's so nice here, it's the environment is so nice that you forget, you take it for granted sometimes. When you're in a place like Paris, you see so much hell and so much misery around you, whatever misery you're going through is nothing, It's like, it becomes, insignificant. You just realize it. So a devotee is paradukkha dukhi. He can't tolerate to see the sufferings of others. And that takes us up to the real point of Krishna prema. It's not just some kind of, now I'm experiencing Krishna prema. There isn't that we don't have any experience, but the process is to please, to serve Radharani, to fulfill Radharani's desires. Huh? And what brings displeasure to Radharani? What displeases her? What will bring her displeasure?
Krishna comes late.
Huh?
If Krishna comes late for the meeting.
Okay, you're getting very close there. You're getting very personal there. That's on another level. I'm not on that level. I get angry if you don't bring my prasadam on time, so I guess it's related to that. But let's look at it from a practical point of view, from something we can kind of relate with, a little bit more realistically.
Vaishnavas are displeased.
When Vaishnavas are displeased, that's a really good answer, isn't it? Also, we could use many answers to that. Namaparad, for instance, and our acharyas sometimes directly translate that to be aparada, against Radha, that which displeases Radha. The very word is there, aparada. They're not different. See, that anything which is not pleasing to Krishna displeases Radha. Right? Anything which is not bringing pleasure to Krishna is displeasing to Radharani. She wants everything. She wants everything to bring pleasure to Krishna. That's her whole existence. That's what she is. She's simply the pleasure potency. Everything. And especially when it comes to interacting with this world, that the material energy is not bringing pleasure to Krishna. It is in one sense, but from the point of view of where we're situated, we're using this material energy for our pleasure, or we're trying to, isn't it? And what to speak of the living entities? The living entities have no interest in bringing pleasure to Krishna. It's not even on their menu. They don't even think about it. And many times we don't think about it either. We judge our actions or our decisions quite often on how much pleasure it brings us. You can expect that in the preliminary stages. We're like kids. But that's not the real mood of Vaishnava, the devotees. their only consideration, and we see that Prabhupada's motivation for coming to the Western world was the instruction of his spiritual master, no doubt, but the strength or the conviction to fulfill that instruction had many factors involved, but one of the primary ones was when he came across the purport in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. What number is it? Vyavasyatmika Buddhirake. What number is that? 41? 41? Yeah, and he read the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. What did Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur write in his commentary, which inspired Prabhupada or gave him the conviction? Those who are part of the scholars here, probably it's too simple to even humiliate yourself by answering this. It's such a simple topic. What did he read there in the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti? More or less. You don't have to say it word for word or say it in Sanskrit or something. Just summarize it. Come on. Who wants to say? Here we go.
The order of the spiritual master should be taken in one's life.
Exactly. Whether you send me to heaven or to hell, I don't mind. The order of my spiritual master is my sadhana as well as my sadhya. Sadhya means goal, ultimate goal. Maybe there are goals in between. People have different stages. But ultimate goal is the order, whatever pleases my spiritual master. That's my goal in life. The same principle is there. It's the mood of a Vaishnava. So a true devotee cannot tolerate to see the sufferings of others, and especially the suffering of Radharani. Preaching means to bring pleasure to Radha. By reconnecting everything which appears not to be connected, by connecting it with Krishna. Whether it's the energy of this world, in terms of the inferior energy or the marginal energy, but to connect that again to the superior. And when we chant the Mahamantra, what are we praying for? Are we praying for wealth? Maybe. Are we praying for fame? Maybe. Are we praying for relief? Maybe. Are we praying to feel good? Maybe. Are we praying are we chanting in the mood, if I don't chant I won't get breakfast? Maybe. Or ice cream, whatever we want. What are we praying for? What is there at this stage? And we're talking generally, I can't speak for individuals, but as a general principle, what is our consciousness when we're chanting Hare Krishna? Yeah. Please, we're approaching Radharani. Please engage me in your service or in the service of your servants. Please engage me. So I'm no longer engaged in the service of the inferior energy, be it gross or subtle. Gross detachment from the gross may seem to be accessible, to some degree, if not to a complete degree, at least. At least to some degree we're following certain amount of detachment from the material. Gross. But subtle. I was coming down the stairs, we went to see the Gurukul, not the Gurukul, kind of a Gurukul, but the school you have here, many young children. And on the wall downstairs there was a message there from Raghunath Maharaj. What did it say? Below on the way down the stairs. Adi, you saw it. What does it say?
There is pride in the heart.
Say it on the microphone, please.
If you have pride in your heart, then Krishna is very displeased.
There you go. What to speak of Radharani? Pride, huh? We may have a certain amount of pride in our heart. I mean, we all have some, otherwise we would be free completely. Some pride is there. Other things too. Pride being, Jesus, it never seems to stop sometimes. You get proud, humble, you become proud of so-called humility, you become proud of everything. No matter what happens. Austerity, achievements, an obvious one, proud of anything. There are some things you can be proud of. You can be proud of being fortunate enough to be in the association of devotees or to be engaged in devotional service, but you have to be very careful. We'll finish the purport. Where we get to concocted way. Nevertheless, the Lord is so kind that he comes himself to instruct the bewildered living entity how to act obediently and then gradually return home back to Godhead, where he can attain an eternal, peaceful life of bliss and knowledge. How to act obediently. Obeisances, obediently. The living entity has a body, which is a very complicated combination of the material elements. And with his body, he struggles alone, as indicated in this verse by the words ekas tu. Very complicated. This body is so complicated, isn't it? Not just the senses, but you look at the ingredients which this body is constructed of, it's so complicated. I often wonder, why does Krishna make it so complicated? Isn't it? The nervous system, all the various systems in the body, the blood system, and goodness knows all these other things that are there. It's so complicated how it all works. So we don't have any idea how it's all going on. Isn't it incredible? You're living in a body. Many people say it's me. Most people say this is me. And you have no idea really how it works. I went to check on my skin, dermatology. They said, frankly speaking, we really don't know what causes all of this. We try to treat the effect, but we have no idea what the cause is. We don't even know what's going on in our own body. We're so ignorant, so complicated. Not that we absolutely need to, but it's just an indication of our ignorance. Krishna's energies, we can't conceive it. We can't even conceive the material energy, what to speak of the spiritual one. Krishna is inconceivable. And he bewilders. This is part of his, material energy, you could say, Maya's business. Keeping the living end, they're so absorbed day and night in trying to understand this phenomenal world. Huh? People are so absorbed. Studying the cells, studying the neutrons, the electrons, the atoms, studying it, trying to see how it all works, trying to decipher it, trying to get down to the root. And they're missing the point, entirely missing the point. People are wasting their lives in this way. And they never understand it because they're proud. As long as pride is there, you can't really understand Krishna consciousness. You have some words, we have some words to say, and we try to rationalize and we try to apply it. It's all part of, you could say, the process, but the real understanding or the realization eludes us. The living entity has a body which is complicated. For example, if one is struggling in the ocean, he must swim through it alone. Although many other men and aquatics are swimming in the ocean, he must take care of himself because no one else will help him. If you can take shelter of someone else and hold on to someone else who can really swim, I suppose you could get somewhere if they can really swim. Although many are... Therefore, this verse indicates that the 17th item, the soul, must work alone, although he tries to create society. Like a plane, probably as an example. Once it takes off, you have to fly your own kite, so to speak. Therefore, the only concern, although he tries to create society, friendship, and love, no one will be able to help him other than Krishna. Because they're all fallible soldiers. They cannot help us at the time of death. They can't even really help us during the time of what we call life, other than the pure devotees. Because they're also drowning, like in the quicksand. How can someone else in the quicksand help us? They maybe help us for a short while. We may think we're okay, but it doesn't last very long. Because we're both sinking. They may be a little bit less sunk than we are, but we're still sinking. We have to take shelter of that which is beyond. So only Krishna, ultimately, only Krishna can help us. And he helps us through his pure devotee representatives. Therefore, his only concern should be how to satisfy Krishna. He's our real friend. No one else is our real friend. Only those who are, of course, representing Krishna. How to satisfy Krishna. That should be our meditation. Instead of how to satisfy myself, I want, I want, I want. What will please Krishna? How can I please Krishna? And how do we know how to please Krishna? How do you know?
The spiritual master.
Through the spiritual master or through those who know. It's very simple, but it's very important to meditate on. If you want to, let's say in a relationship between husband and wife, maybe there's some grihastha couple sitting here today, I don't know, I don't want to embarrass you, but just let's say the wife wants to satisfy the husband, what does she do?
You do something what the husband likes.
That's a very simplistic and obvious answer in one sense, isn't it? You do something that the husband likes, isn't it? What do you think? Adhikeshav, is that right? Perfect, is it? You've experienced that in your life? Do you always like that? Where is she? Okay, there's the link. Oh, you're both very fortunate souls. Now I know the link. Okay, got it. Is that your, I don't know your name, Mother. Prema Lila. What a lovely name. Have you experienced that in your life, that when you do something your husband likes, he's happy? And the relationship is better or worse? Better, okay. Now, if you do something you know he doesn't like, what happens? Pardon? You strain the relationship. Sometimes it gets so strained it breaks, right? You know, what do you like to eat, Adi? What do you like to eat? Come on.
He likes South Indian food.
South Indian food. Are you from South India?
Yeah, you both are from South India.
Where? Tamil or what?
We are from
Udupi.
Udupi.
Udupi? Really? Wow, what a holy place. So naturally you like South Indian food. So you cook South Indian food for your husband sometimes?
Not after coming here, Maharaj. Because he takes with the...
What a renounced grihastha. He takes with the Brahmin. They don't cook South. You have to, please, Adi, you have to cook some South Indian food. Idli, dosa. What do you like? Sambar. What do you like?
Dosa.
Dosa. There we go. Make really nice dosa, and he'll be so happy. Very simple. What a simple example, isn't it? Pretty much what everyone like, when if they know what it is, they like dosa. Dosa is one of those superfoods, you know. Incredible. Absolutely. Especially if it's cooked properly by a South Indian who really knows how to cook it. Mataji. Nice and crispy, and it's everywhere in the world they have their special. And and if you know say for instance, you know your husband is diabetic. Are you going to cook everything with sugar? What would he say? I remember one time I made I didn't. I mean, decided devotee or somebody sent it out to the next temple we're going to. Maharaj doesn't eat tomatoes and cabbage. They got the message wrong. When we got there, every preparation had tomato and cabbage in it. Everything practically. I didn't become angry, I just laughed. They got the message wrong. You have to find out what pleases Krishna. Simple as that. If you want to make a friend with someone, you have to find out what they want, not what you want. I like pizza, therefore I'm going to cook pizza. And I hope they don't like it, then I'll have more pizza for myself, won't I? Good idea. We have that sometimes, we have that mentality in service. You know, I have to put it in an exact example, but, you know, I've seen it. That, oh my God, there's some guests coming. That means there's less Mahaprasad for me. Let me hide it. I've seen it. Sometimes we have that type of selfish mentality, which isn't pleasing to Radharani. Or even on Sankirtan. Okay, we're kids. I've seen devotees to win the book distribution, and I'm sure you don't do that here, but in England, in the 70s, when we were really on fire for book distribution, devotees would do certain things. They'd like hide the other devotees' shoes or tie them up in knots so that you couldn't undo the knots and you'd be delayed like 20 minutes getting out on the street, you know. Stupid things like that, you know. It's kind of child play, but I can win the day's Sankirtanas. It's children, so you know the father and mother understand that, but that's not a mature understanding. A devotee's maturity is they like to see, they're happy to see others progress. Huh? Even if you look at it from a relative point of view, if another devotee is progressing, what does that mean? What does it mean? You can answer it in different ways, couldn't you?
Guru is pleased.
Huh?
Guru is
Okay, they're getting the mercy of the Guru, yes. But from our perspective, what does it mean?
Get more mature association.
Yes, you're going to get the chance to get better association. Why you should feel miserable about it? You should be very excited, enthused. How fortunate that devotee is advancing. Now, if I serve them, maybe, maybe Krishna will bestow some mercy on me. Still a little bit self-centered, but still, it's there. We're getting better association. Nice, huh? Oh, God, let me find a fault in them. Try to bring them down. Envious. Finish the purport. That is also what Krishna wants. The Bhagavad Gita 1866, what does Krishna say? Sarvadharma pratyagya. A big topic. Sarvadharma pratyagya mamikam sharanam vraja. People bewildered by material conditions try to be united. But although they strive for unity among men and nations, all their attempts are futile. Speaks for itself. Everyone must struggle alone for existence with the many elements of nature. Therefore, one's only hope, as Krishna advises, is to surrender to him, for he can help one become free from the ocean of nescience. Delivers us a nice picture of Krishna pulling the devotee. Ladies, don't worry, they'll pull you out while you're, whatever you call that, pull you out from this material ocean of birth and death. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore prayed, Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam kripaya tava pada pankajam titadule sadrisham vichintaya. O Krishna, beloved of Nanda Maharaj, I am your eternal servant. But somehow or another I have fallen into this ocean of nescience. And although I am struggling very hard, there is no way I can save myself. If you kindly pick me up and fix me as one of the particles of dust at your lotus feet, that will save me. In a similar way, Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Anadi karma pale paribhavana vajale taribare na dekhi upay. My dear Lord, I cannot remember when I somehow or other fell into this ocean of nescience, and now I can find no way to rescue myself. Just like you fall into a well. I don't suppose anyone here has fallen into a well. You know, a well, deep well. How can you get out? There's no steps, by the way. There's no metal things to hold on to. It's just a well with water. And you fell into the well, into hell. How will you get out? How? Only, pretty much our only hope, isn't it? If somehow or another somebody comes along, you're crying and crying, help, help, Save me! Save me! Kind of like that in the material world, but people are not crying like that. They're crying to make my existence in this hell better. Please, God, make my hellish existence better than the others. Please give me more facility in the well. Please may my boat be a nicer boat so I can float in hell. Everyone's praying like this practically. But who's crying out when that desperate cry? Probably we have to cry like a child. There's a nice example given by one of our acharyas, actually, of a child. The mother is cooking and the child is in the cot, sleeping. The child wakes up. Usually when a child wakes up, what's the first thing the child does? Cries. The child starts crying. What does the mother do?
Stops cooking.
Hopefully. Shut up! Throws a pot at the kid. No, she doesn't do that. Maybe you feel disturbed sometimes, but no, she stops cooking, more or less, and goes to attend to the child. She maybe caresses the child for a while, the child goes back to sleep. She goes back to the kitchen and carries on cooking. After a while, the child wakes up and cries again. The mother comes again. This time she gives the child some toys to play with. And the child goes quiet. Maybe the first time, more, whatever. Then, after a while, the child throws the toy out of the cot, as children usually do. And they get fed up after a while. The mother again starts screaming, and the mother comes to the child. Then she puts some very fancy things, some lights, some buttons, and ding, 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 and all this and that. The child's fascinated again by the display around it, and the mother goes back to cook. Eventually, the child gets fed up and screaming again. The mother comes. This time, the child has no interest in any alternative. The child has no interest. The child only wants the mother's attention or association. Then the mother realizes there's nothing else. She just has to give her full attention to the child. So we become completely freed. If we want to enter into Vrindavan, what do we have to do? We're Vrindavan here or there, but what do we have to do? What is that beautiful song of Narottam Das Thakur? Ishoro choriyo kobe, shoro hobi mon, kabe hama herabo, Sri Vrindavan. You have to literally give up, not just hold back, but completely. No interest, gross, subtle interest in this material, this idea I am the enjoyer, everything around me is to be adjusted for my pleasure, as the karmis do, or try to do. Either positive or negative, but no, everything is Krishna's energy. Everything belongs to him. We have no interest in trying to enjoy it separately from Krishna. Cultivate. How are we going to cultivate? How is this going to develop? This is real selflessness. How is this going to develop? Maybe you've developed it. You can inform us how it's to be done. Otherwise, we can just surmise on what we've heard or whatever experience we've got. How is it to be done? How does this develop in our consciousness? This is pridelessness. Huh? How to develop that? It could be a simple answer. What do you think?
Following in the footsteps of the Acharyas.
There's a simple answer, isn't it? Following their footsteps, what does that mean? You know, when they walk along, you put your foot exactly where they put their foot, right? Especially if they're walking in the sand, you put your foot in the mark in the sand where they stepped. one way of looking at it, but that we know that it's more than that. Of course it isn't. It is more than that. Following their instructions, basically. They are acharyas. They teach by example. To follow their example. Not to imitate, but to follow the example. They give us appropriate example, and we have to understand what is imitation and what is following. They may do things which we're not ready to do, of course they do. But in principle, to follow their example. How else could that develop? How does purity come about?
Sincere practice. Sincere practice.
Okay, sincere practice. We apply the medicine to, in this case, the process of devotion in our lives. Krishna appears in this form, particularly in the holy name, we could say, particularly in the sense of service to the name. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said it develops by that process. He said many other things too, of course, but in regards to this, that by exposing ourselves to the sound vibration of the holy name, attentive hearing of the holy name, putting everything else aside, holy name purifies our heart. It's Krishna. Pavitram purifies us. How else? Association, you could say. Association not like that of a fly or a mosquito. Mosquito's trying to get something out of the association for itself. I don't know what the fly's up to. Probably the same thing. Don't be like a fly or a mosquito. Association means we're submitting ourselves to devotees, whatever. Please engage me, please have mercy on me. Mercy. The mercy. It's mercy alone, ultimately, which is the deciding factor here. Mercy of the Lord. The awakening of our dormant love of Krishna. Prabhupada writes this. Does not at all depend upon our mechanical practice of hearing and chanting, but depends wholly and solely upon the mercy of the Lord. Praying for that mercy, finding out, there still may be motivations there, but at least there's the process, how we can get that mercy. But the mercy of the Lord is what really determines the change of heart. We try our best. Mother Yasoda tried to tie up Krishna, but ultimately it depended upon Krishna's will. We try our best to try to follow properly, do our best to please. But ultimately it's the mercy of Krishna. Not just an external exercise, but internal desire. When our desire becomes strong enough, if an individual, we should remember that everyone is responsible for his own life. This is another thing. We are responsible. No one else is to blame. Whether it's circumstances around us or individuals, karma, of course, is there. Sometimes people blame Krishna. But it's not. It's our own responsibility. If an individual becomes a pure devotee of Krishna, he is then delivered from the ocean of nescience. So try to stay in this atmosphere or this association of devotees. Dedicate our lives, as Prabhupada did to his order of his spiritual master. Through thick and thin, whether it's happiness or distress which we experience, or a mixture of the two, if we put that aside and not try to adjust things so that I only, everything should be for my happiness or whatever, but what will please Krishna through the association of devotees, we can learn how to please Krishna. Try to focus on that, living our lives for the pleasure of Krishna, preaching Krishna consciousness all over the world. This brings great pleasure to Radharani. when she sees her parts, or Krishna's parts and parcels reconnected to Krishna, we're all meant to bring pleasure to Krishna, so when the living entity is not bringing pleasure to Krishna, this brings displeasure to Radha. So she appears in this world in the form of Mahaprabhu. We can serve his mission and be a part of that ultimate goal to bring satisfaction to Radharani. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. We're a little bit over time. Maybe one question, if you want. Or comment. Yes, Prabhu. Microphone. What is your good name?
My name is Sri Gaur Charan Das.
Sri Gorchand. Sri
Charan.
Gorcharan. Yes, very nice. There's a lot of Goras around here. How many Goras? Gaurangas and Goras. This is really the land of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Yes, Gorchand.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, I have a question that in our process of performing devotional service, there are many, we say that sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low. And when it's low, we try to analyze why it's low. Is that something we have offended someone or whatever? Or is it because of eating something which has developed that consciousness? Whatever, we try to analyze and we don't come to a conclusion or we don't not able to find the root cause of what's the problem actually.
Yeah.
And we try to do more devotional service, but again, after some time, again we go low. So, my just question is how we can, uh, yes, every time we are coming on the right track, trying to come onto the right track, but the problem is again and again this happens. So, what should we do that we don't go low? We try to go up and up.
Yeah, sometimes the boys do. Of course, it's no new thing. I mean, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj himself talks a lot about this in terms of, ups and downs due to whether it's present or past reasons, and how to, stay or keep going up, 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 up. How to stay in the sun, so to speak. It's a movement, so that's the easy one to understand. We have to, in terms of the sun, if you want to stay in the sun, you've got to follow the course of the sun. But as far as devotees, and some devotees get so weighed down, or maybe disheartened sometimes. You go up and down. What's that Sanskrit term? What is it? In the process of bhajana kriya, what's the Sanskrit term? Sometimes, huh? Yeah, Tarangarangini. Up and down, sometimes on, sometimes off. And it seems to continually going on, but I don't know how many years you can't really measure in terms of relative time in that sense. So what is the secret here? And some people get so negative or so down, they just leave, they just give up. They just let go, and that happens. So what is the secret? Well, one of them is you don't stop. That's the meaning of yesterday, determination. Was I reading that yesterday? Determination. Something like that. I can't remember the term. Anyway, determination is can be understood in different ways. Determination. The word terminate means to stop. Determinate means without stopping, no matter what happens. You remember the example of great devotees. You remember not that they are going up and down like we are, but they are put into similar difficulties. Prahlad Maharaj, even Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, Haridas Thakur. You take shelter of these great devotees. Remember them. And gets great determination, Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, by hearing about these great souls. One can develop this determination which is required. That these ups and downs, we have to understand, is not made as going up and down. I remember when I was a kid, we used to go on a holiday quite often to an island off the coast of England. And we just go on a boat. I was a kid, maybe 6 years, 5 years. I still remember it now quite vividly. I would get seasick. You know what seasickness is? Probably not experienced, but some, especially kids, they get seasick when the boat goes like this, And I was screaming, I want to get off the boat. I want to get off the boat. I hate this boat. I didn't realize why the boat was going up and down. My mother wouldn't let me get off the boat. And it started as if I hated my mother because she was stopping me from getting off the boat. And so I saw as the cause of my sickness, It wasn't the cause of the sickness, it was because of contact with the water in the boat. You get off the boat, you're finished. You're just drowned. I mean, we're in the middle of the ocean. I mean, if you get off when you get to the other end, that's okay, but, not in the middle of the ocean. So some people get off like that, but then they're drowned in the material whirlpool, nescience. Due to nescience, of not understanding what's going on here. This ups and downs are external. Whatever the immediate cause or distant causes may be, they can be seen as a test. I like to see them as a test. For an advanced devotee, it might be showing an example for others who are going through it and identifying with it as being my experience. But it's a result of that which is not us. It's contact with the material energy in its various forms, due to our pride or our false identity or false ego. But it's not you. It's not you. You're just watching it. That's like you're watching we're hearing here, on the mental plane. You're watching these various, and it's not just the external immediate perception which we have. The perception in the mind is from countless lifetimes, isn't it? Countless lifetimes, whatever form it comes in. And you're identifying with it, and you're trying to battle with it, trying to adjust it different ways. Same thing that the karmas are doing. They just don't have Krishna in their formula. But I'd say we're going through a similar thing in one sense. So what do we do? Let's take japa as an easy example in terms of a practical activity. We all know how our consciousness goes in and out. 1 minute you're trying to remember Krishna, the next minute you're somewhere else. Is that true? Fluctuating? I don't know. Maybe I'm alone. My mind doesn't fluctuate. It only goes over there. It never comes to Krishna. But usually there's a fluctuation of some degree there, at least. So what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Sincerity. We don't give up, do we? What do we do? There are techniques to try to help, of course there are, but in principle, what do we do? We are helpless kids. What does a helpless child do? Mothers, what does a helpless baby do? Cry out. But who to? Cries to his mother, normally. Mommy! Mommy! No one else can help. He may come along, but the child wants mummy. No one else can help, really. So mummy comes if she can. When we cry out, when these difficulties are there, analysis may be required, no doubt. That's part of the process. But the real thing is we have to, take shelter of Krishna. Help. Take shelter of Krishna. And you can see it positively. Oh, what a wonderful opportunity this is again, to take shelter of Krishna. Not just take shelter of analysis, that is also to be done. We have to have some bandhagyan. But also we have to take shelter of the real point is taking shelter of Krishna. Turning to Krishna. Realizing we're helpless. Only, as Prabhupada said here, only Krishna can save us, no one else. Not our intellectual analysis, not even our learning. Association of devotees certainly can, but what is that association? Is just to help us turn to Krishna, that's all. Association, sadhu sangha is not an alternative to Krishna consciousness. It's that association which helps us to be Krishna conscious, which helps to remind us of Krishna. That's sadhu sangha. In every situation, devotee takes shelter of Krishna, happiness or distress. What does Bhaktivinoda Thakur sing? Sukhe dukkhe bullanako vadane harinam korore Vehe tako vani tako sada hari bole dako. What they do? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna save us. Great opportunity to just keep taking shelter of Krishna. It's not the result we see which is the goal. It's not that's necessarily the indicator. It's to the degree you're taking shelter of Krishna. Let all the problems come. You may say like that sometimes. Look at Haridas Thakur. What is the essential? Vrindavan Thakur, actually Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj comments on, the essential point of Chaitanya Bhagavat is in this very pastime of Haridas Thakur, Nirantara Namalau. Nirantara Namalau. No matter what difficulties come along, what problems there, you take shelter of Krishna, the holy name. There's a whole process there, but that's the principle. Taking shelter of Krishna. Nothing happens by chance. Krishna's allowing these things to happen. And it's difficult sometimes, but we can't solve it. You take shelter of Krishna. As you say, you don't find the root cause. The root cause is we're forgetting Krishna. We're not taking shelter of Krishna. We still have pride and we're still taking shelter of what we think is my capacity, my ability, my intellect, my knowledge, my whatever it is. Take shelter of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanandi.